Russia just told the United States, plain and simple, if a conflict breaks out in Greenland, they'll respond with military force. No diplomatic jargon, no veiled implications. Just a direct, unmistakable threat. And what's even more striking is the timing. Only days before that warning, the US quietly sent a nuclear-powered submarine into port in Iceland. Something that had never happened before. No coincidence there. You might be wondering, what's going on in the Arctic? Why are powerful nations suddenly crowding around frozen islands and icy seas? And why should you care? Because this isn't just about one submarine, this is about control of sea lanes, resources, and strategic territory. The Arctic is no longer a remote, frozen afterthought. It's becoming the next front line of global competition. On July 17th, Russia's ambassador to Denmark didn't speak in theory. His warning was a reaction to real-world military moves already underway. At the same time, the US has been quietly expanding its presence in the far north, especially in Greenland and Iceland, places you probably associate with nature documentaries, not battlegrounds. But beneath the glaciers and volcanic ridges, something serious is unfolding. Let's talk about the submarine that signaled all this, the USS Newport News. It's a Los Angeles-class nuclear-powered attack sub. Sleek, nearly silent, and worth over $900 million. It's not built to launch nuclear missiles like the Ohio-class boomers. Instead, it hunts enemy submarines, surface ships, and high-value targets. It tracks them, shadows them, and strikes when ordered. It can stay hidden underwater for months. What makes this visit historic is that it wasn't done in the shadows. US submarines have resupplied near Iceland before, but never pulled into port, never let the crew come ashore, never posed for the cameras. This time it was deliberate and public. Statements were issued, media snapped photos, and the world was invited to take notice. Especially one country in particular, Russia. You don't need to be a strategist to see what this move means. The US is showing it can deploy nuclear-powered assets right across the Guyuk Gap, short for Greenland, Iceland, United Kingdom. A critical maritime choke point. Russian submarines heading into the Atlantic must pass through this narrow corridor, and if the US and NATO can lock it down, they essentially control access to both Europe and North America. Now put yourself in Russia's position. You're watching a top-tier US attack submarine dock in full view, right at your gateway to the Atlantic. How would you take that? This isn't business as usual, it's strategic signaling, and it's not happening in isolation. Zoom out a bit, and it becomes even clearer why Greenland and Iceland suddenly matter so much. Their geography makes them essential. Greenland hosts Thule Air Base, the northernmost US military base in the world. It's been there since the Cold War, and it's still a major outpost for missile warning, space surveillance, and satellite tracking. Iceland, on the other hand, doesn't have a standing army, but that doesn't mean it's out of the game. It plays a key role in NATO's air and maritime defense grid. In essence, it acts like a giant sensor station in the middle of the North Atlantic. Anything that flies or sails through the Guyuk Gap, whether it's a submarine, a bomber, or a fleet, will likely be detected there first. And beyond military strategy, there's another major factor heating up the Arctic: resources. As polar ice continues to melt, new shipping lanes are opening, and access to untapped oil, natural gas, and rare earth minerals becomes easier. Control over these routes and reserves means long-term power: economic, political, and military. The race is already underway, and the stakes couldn't be higher. So while the world watches more familiar flashpoints, you're seeing a new one emerging up north, one where submarines glide beneath ice sheets, bases track satellites, and superpowers shadow each other in silence. If you think this is just about one submarine, think again. The US isn't just placing hardware in the Arctic, it's deploying some of its most advanced surveillance systems across land, sea, and air. At Keflavik Air Base in Iceland, US Navy P-8 Poseidon aircraft now patrol the Guyuk Gap, dropping sonar buoys, tracking submarines, and even carrying anti-ship missiles. They scan the depths and skies non-stop, building a live picture of who's moving where and when. And that's only part of the toolkit. Satellites monitor from above. Drones fly long-duration missions. Sonar arrays listen from the ocean floor, and unmanned underwater vehicles sweep the ice-cold depths. NATO forces run exercises like Dynamic Mongoose, full-scale submarine hunts that test coordination and readiness while reminding everyone that the alliance is active, alert, and very present. But here's what you need to understand. Russia isn't standing still. They're investing in new icebreakers, expanding Arctic infrastructure, and deploying underwater listening stations of their own. From Moscow's view, all of this US and NATO activity looks awfully familiar. More surveillance, more exercises, more military traffic, even talk of Greenland becoming a future US outpost. It's no wonder they're drawing lines in the snow. You may remember that back in 2019, President Trump floated the idea of buying Greenland. The world laughed, but behind the scenes, the interest was dead serious. Greenland is massive, loaded with critical resources and positioned perfectly for strategic control. For Putin's Kremlin, the Arctic isn't just a cold frontier, it's a core national interest. Russia has now declared that militarizing Greenland would cross a red line. They're not bluffing. And now with the US proving it can move nuclear-powered assets in and out of the region freely, that red line is looking thinner by the day. Just recently, NORAD detected 4 Russian military aircraft flying near Alaska, bombers and fighters, skirting the air defense identification zone. They didn't enter US airspace, but they came close. Fighter jets were scrambled, radars tracked every move. It wasn't the first time, and it won't be the last. So here you are. A US sub docks in Iceland. Russia issues a military threat over Greenland. Warplanes test defenses in Alaska. The ice may be melting, but politically, the Arctic is burning. Now ask yourself, is this the next big theater of global conflict?